Agenda item 1828, resolution.
No, I've never met Jeff.
Nice guy.
Contract.
I was wearing my mask the other day. I was talking about
Well, welcome everyone. This is the 8th day of June 2020. Prior to the start of the regular meeting, we have a public hearing on the proposed annual budget ordinance for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2021. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on the budget at this time? All right, seeing none, then we will proceed with the regular meeting of the Board, Mayor, and Aldermen. First is the roll call. Ms. Golden.
Mayor Curley,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Blanks,
Here.
Alderperson Berry,
here.
Blackwell,
Here.
Dunn, here, Noes,
Here.
Mathis,
Here.
7 present.
The chair detects a quorum, so we'll proceed. We're very, very pleased that Reverend Don Dixon is with us again this evening. I ask him to step to the podium and offer our invocation. I ask everyone to please stand and remain standing as Pastor Dixon leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance after the invocation. Pastor Dixon.
Thank you. Let us pray. Eternal God and Creator of all, we ask as members of the Tullahoma Board of Aldermen and Mayor look at the agenda set before them, that they use wisdom to govern among the conflicting interests and issues, a sense of fairness for all our people, a thirst for justice and rightness, and a confidence in what is good and fitting. Give them the ability to work together in harmony. And we pray for each of them personal peace as they serve our community, putting service above self. We ask all of this in thy name. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Dixon. Appreciate you being with us as always. Thank you for your work. Okay, next is, I'm going to go out of order just a little bit. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the board under the public comment section?
I do.
Okay, if you would, if you don't mind, step to the podium and offer your name and your address for the record, please.
Okay. My name is Cassandra Confer. I live at 940 McKellar Drive here in Tullahoma.
Welcome.
Thank you. I just have a few issues. I didn't know where else to go, so I'm here
Well,
tonight.
we all have issues too.
On our road, it's kind of like a circle drive. It's a quiet neighborhood. We've had some problems with some speeders. I've contacted the police. They barely did anything. I've contacted the county sheriff's office. They have not done anything. I contacted the state police, and now they're coming out and doing something about it. But the problem is that there's no speed limit signs, and we have called your office a few times trying to get speed limit signs up. And apparently no one knows what the legal speed limit is in that neighborhood. I'm here to suggest that it's 25 miles an hour. There's several kids who live on that road, that play on that road. We have a hill they like to ride their bikes up the hill. They're kids, they like to have fun. We have an individual that we've given the license plate number and her address to the police. She has come within inches of hitting a child because she's on her phone speeding, not paying attention. She's almost hit my husband when he was weed whacking the weeds out of the ditch. She's almost ran over my dog who was in my yard at the edge of the road. It's a big concern. I mean, he's an adult. He can jump out of the way. Dog shouldn't be that close to the road. I understand that. But these children is my big concern. And something really needs to be done about the speeding and the patrolling. If we could get, the state police said that without a speed limit sign, it posted in black and white, they cannot write any tickets for anybody that's going under 55 miles an hour.
All right, so I'm sorry for your frustration. I appreciate you being here tonight. See the gentleman in the corner right back there? That's the new police chief. He's doing an excellent job. Chief, do you mind walking out with this young lady and y'all talk about it? This young lady right up here is the city administrator. She's the one that could determine about posting speed limit signs and things like that.
Okay.
So between the two of them, they'll get it worked out, I promise.
Okay.
We all want a safe community.
And then I have another concern. There is another, what was that road? We was at my friend's house the other night. The speed limit's posted for 30 miles an hour, and there is somebody well going over 50. The speeding in the town in general is a big concern. And off the side street there, the lady's house that we were at, she said there's 17 kids that live on that road. 17 kids that ride their bike down that road that the guy was going well over 50 on. And then, sorry, one more thing. I work over at Skills Development Services. We participate in the community and stuff, and over there underneath the bridge, there's a lot of graffiti. Is there anything we can do about that? Because none of us want to see the things that are displayed in that graffiti, and especially the population that I work with, they don't need to see that.
I understand. So I know it has been defaced. I know it's covered over. Again, Mrs. Moody is the one that could make sure that's taken care of, and Mr. Taylor over here can, I'm sure, can take that matter
I
up as well.
appreciate y'all listening.
Oh, no,
to my
you're
concern.
welcome anytime.
Okay,
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
So Chief Williams is over here in the corner, okay?
Okay.
If you would visit with him on the way out. Anyone else have anything to discuss? That's not later on the agenda. Okay, seeing none, we will back up now, and very pleased to have 4 members of the school system with us tonight. In just a moment, I'm going to ask Ms. Blackwell to introduce the new director of schools, but in the meantime, I'm going to ask Pat Welch, longtime chair of the Board of Education, to step to the podium and offer any comments he'd like to make, and then I believe the most recent interim director of schools, Scott Hargrove, is also here. Mr. Hargrove, do you want to say anything tonight? But we may
bring him up.
Yeah. And then Mr. Ray is here. We'll get to Dr. Stevens in just a moment. Welcome, Mr. Welch.
I'll just have to get used to it. Yeah. Thank you. And I regret that this will be the last time with you as mayor, but and you have done a great job. I've been with the school board in a long enough time now where the city board and the school board were not near, the relationship was not near what it is today. And we want to keep it the same, and we realize that you set a great standard, but I feel like the person that's going to step in will also do a great job too.
Thank you for your kind words, but you're taking up precious time.
They still need to be made. We realize that there's the second reading, I believe, is tonight, and the real work's already been done. It's at some point we'll ask for an increase, and I understand, like y'all do too, that the COVID situation is making it tough on everybody. I will say we got Jason tonight to ask if somebody wants to know what 26 on the line 26 on the revenue side is from. He can answer that. But I did notice when I was surfing the channels this morning that I didn't have anything better to do than to watch a BMA meeting, and the budget came up, and Ms. Moody had a list of financial people that were involved, and I believe the term was used, team, and Jason was on that list, and we're very appreciative, and people do notice that. I am going to call Scott to come up here and see what he might want to say. It's not easy being interim anything, but I'm going to tell you that Scott Hargrove did us a tremendous job, and I hope y'all will help me welcome him.
So we have some really tough questions for Mr. Hargrove. We'll miss seeing you at East Lincoln. I will miss seeing you at East Lincoln Elementary School, but maybe I can visit sometimes.
You know, the day that you announced that you were not running again, I walk in my house. There sits Anna Claire. And I said, Anna, did you have a good day? She goes, well, Dad, I'm sad. Just never underestimate, the moral of the story is never underestimate your impact. I said, well, Anna Claire, being the sensitive father I am, why are you sad? She goes, Mayor Curley's leaving. He won't be running again. He's my mayor. He's the only mayor I've known. He's come and talked to me every year I was in school. And you wonder about the impact of that. Well, there's a great impact. 17-year-old girl, he's the only mayor I've ever known. And we appreciate your service to our community. First time I saw you, you were in a dugout. It was in 1974 with Coach Mathis. And I thought you were the tallest man in the world until I saw Waylon Long a few years later. But it's been an honor to lead the school system. We're rolling right along athletically. We have a good football season, soccer, competitive, state golf, and girls golf. Great basketball season, outstanding wrestling season, girls and boys, and then boom, March 20th hits. There was not a course that I took in college. There was not any kind of training for this. Who I want to recognize are our teachers and our staff. Was our plane perfect? No, but it's pretty doggone aerodynamic. I want to thank our teachers, our staff, our nutrition team fed over 100,000 people during the closure, 100,000 kids, provided meals, and we're on second week of mobilizing our summer feedings. And our families and kids. It's not hard. You've got an elementary age student at home. It's not easy. And our kids' resilience, the class of 2020 will always have a huge asterisk in a special way. But I'm proud of what we accomplished in this. What the future holds, I don't know. We've got a great captain at the helm in Dr. Stevens. But it's been a real honor and a privilege to lead our school system in a crazy time. But chaos is tolerable in small doses. Appreciate all of y'all's support. And I want to present our new superintendent, Dr. Katrine Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Hargrove. So prior to you speaking, I would like, Ms. Blackwell, are you prepared to, as a liaison?
Yes.
Let me ask you to properly introduce Dr. Stevens, please.
I am. So Dr. Stevens, I was very excited to meet her for the first time at during the interview process, and she is an amazing asset to our community right now. I'm excited to introduce you to her tonight. She comes to us from Franklin Special School District, where she served as Associate Director of Schools for 8 years. We're excited to have her at TCS as our Director of Schools, and also I know that this is going to be a really intense year coming up, as y'all have no idea what the state's going to tell you to do. So I'm just really glad. I think we're in great hands, and I'm excited to introduce you to her.
Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you very
The floor
much.
is yours, Dr. Stevens. Thank you for
Yes,
being
and I'm going to hold this because I see it wants to slide down. So first of all, Mayor Curley, thank you for coming by to meet with me. Today I enjoyed getting a chance to see you and speak with you, and I hope one day I get a mayor card. So before beginning with the presentation, I just did want to tell you how proud I am to be the superintendent of Tullahoma City Schools. Today is my 1-week anniversary, and here I am with each of you. Something that you all should know, as I prepared for the interview, I spent a long time researching the school system and the city. And something that I discovered, which was very inspiring, and certainly played a powerful role in heightening my interest to joining Tullahoma City Schools, was the strong relationship with the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and our school board. That is very important, This positive relationship matters in the lives of our students, our faculty and staff and families, and our community as a whole, and I'm very thankful to be a part of it. Speaking of COVID that Mr. Hargrove alluded to and the surprise that hit every community across our country, I do want to talk just a little bit about the opening of the school year. So as you can imagine, there is much discussion to be had as it relates to the best way to proceed. Reviewing state guidance, and in a call today with the commissioner, with all the superintendents in Tennessee, we reviewed a reopening toolkit that was provided to us Friday afternoon. And in essence, this will be a local decision. Across the state of Tennessee, districts and school boards will be deciding what is the best way to begin. Prior to getting there and looking at that state guidance, we also have to look at CDC guidance. And we want to connect with our local health department and garner input from others who will add value to this decision, not to mention our school board, our parents, and our employees. So more than likely right now, what it looks like is there's a possibility of 3 different versions as it stands today. One version could be a fairly typical opening where students return, more than likely with certain precautions in place. Another option is called sort of a hybrid version, where you might have some students coming in and you might have distance learning as well. And then, of course, there is the most recent version, which was full and complete distance learning. So there is more to come on that. There will be lots of discussions around that, but I did want you to know that's on everyone's radar as we begin to think about that quickly approaching opening. So now let's move to the budget and some highlights that you have in front of you that I wanted to lift up to you as we look to the 2021 budget. So a few highlights within this budget is an ELA textbook adoption, and that's really important. K-12, there will be curriculum and materials that support the standards, academic standards, and will allow teachers and students to have a wide array of materials to really work toward mastery and achievement of standards. We'll be replacing 2 buses. When that happens, that basically means buses have aged out. They are either between 20 years old or they've reached over 200,000 miles, so it is time to replace them. And then routine maintenance of facilities is also something to lift up. I think it's important to note, as we compare the 1920 budget with the proposed 2021 budget, there is a 0.732% increase without doing any capital improvements. So that's really a status quo. With capital improvements, there is still what I would consider to be a fairly nominal increase, 5.64%. And to lift up, what are some of those capital improvements? Those include things like the track and football field drainage repair, field house flooring, ceiling tiles in both East Middle School and Bel Air Elementary, track top resprayed, tennis courts, gym HVAC in the high school, 5 HVAC units in Farah, carpet in the front offices of Robert E. Lee and Bel Air Elementaries, carpet in the library office at East Middle School. Now, with all that said and those capital improvements, they look terrific. There could be some possible fiscal impact, as you all know, related to COVID, that may defer some of these projects. Within this proposed budget, there is a step raise and a 1% cost of living increase. So those are some really high-level overview of the budget, proposed budget for 2021. I'd love to invite Mr. Ray forward, and if you have any specific questions, either I will respond or defer to Mr. Ray.
So welcome, Mr. Ray. Yep. So what do you see as the impact from the state of Tennessee fiscally on your budget? How much money are you anticipating receiving from the state of Tennessee because of the COVID?
Our latest discussion with the state on Friday with a new anticipated reduction in their budget that they have not yet passed but are continuing to work on, our estimate decreased as of Friday. We had anticipated a 5 to 5.5% increase in our BEP funds. That will be reduced, it looks like, about $168,000 from their original estimated increase. So we're roughly between 4.5% and 5% on the increase from the state. And that could be a multi-year impact that we will not see
Sure.
just in the 2021
Sure.
year.
Right. Any other questions, comments? So I've asked Dr. Stevens, and she's agreed that we would host a reception for Dr. Stevens in this room in 2 weeks, from 5 to 5:30. Invite community leaders and the public at large. The director of schools is a very important and impactful position in our community, and I want her to be able to reach out and comfortable calling on people in the community as she needs to, and I think reception is a good way to start that. So from 5 to 5:30, 2 weeks from tonight, a reception in this room, and we'll figure out at some point how we're going to do all that. Or rather, Ms. Moody probably will. So,
Well, thank you very much. I look forward to getting to know each of you.
good.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no.
And the BEP funding, that's the state's input for our teachers, and like, that's their salaries. That's providing about half of their salaries or so. So with this 1% cost of living and a step increase, is that included even with the whatever $100,000 that we may not get from the state, or are you still going to be able to? Sorry.
We still are going to be able to fully
Okay.
fund that anticipated
Okay.
increase, yes.
Okay.
So you'll be dipping into your reserves to some extent?
Not for payroll, no.
Good.
For capital improvements.
Sure.
Okay.
Is our
Yeah.
anticipation.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you both. Mr. Hargrove, Mr. Wells, thank you for being here as well.
Thank you.
Appreciate all of you. Okay, Tom Robinson is here, and do you have a video or a slide presentation? Okay. And you've got looks like you've got at least two board members here. I can't see some people back there.
Out of an abundance of precaution and social distancing, that's all we were able to gather. So we hope that they will, and we know that they represent us very well. I stand before you today with an annual report. We do this every spring, and we're a little late this spring, but of some of the activities that we've done during the current year to kind of give you an overview, and then also to give you a little bit about what we're looking forward to in the coming year. So it's been a little bit more difficult challenge to put this together this year because of not knowing what's going on, but we'll do it. This is our annual report as required by our bylaws and to the BMA and during your work session. What have we been working on? We continue to do the things that we do. I mean, we do this every year, whether we have new programs, old programs, or whatever, but we work and network with our regional organizations, ECD, TVA, AEDC, UTSI, Motlow, just the whole shebang. We work with them because everything that we do, all of us, involves economic development in some form or fashion. We're continuing to work with our allies. As I said, I'm not sure the screen is down, but if you haven't already, you'll be getting a copy of this. I encourage you to go over it. If you have any questions, let me know. And then we stay in contact with through visitation, phone calls, Facebook, whatever it takes. We try to stay there, and so we like I say, we all work together in our economic development, trying to make this community a better place. Our charter, and we work with 4 main targeted sectors: retail and commercial development, technology-based industries, medical and healthcare, and aviation and aerospace. We also support the county industrial board. They do the heavy lifting on industrial projects if we have them, but we were put in charge to kind of give some added oomph, for lack of a better term, to these sectors. What have we been doing in that? Let's talk about our retail and commercial sectors. We have, I think most of you know, a partnership. We actually contract with a retail consulting firm called Retail Strategies each year. They keep us up, keep all our demographics current. They represent us in trade shows. They represent us with members of the retail industry, plus developers that might have an interest. They go out and solicit those. These people actually know the people that we know about, but they know them, so it's good to have. We also attend, there's a big show called Recon in May of each year in Las Vegas. They didn't go this year, surprisingly. Most of those kind of things were shut down. But we still do, I say we, locally, we work with them and attend some International Council of Shopping Center events. There's one generally in August of each year that's either in Nashville or Louisville, Kentucky. We go to that and we seek out and we get to know people, because like everything else, when you're marketing, relationships is key to a lot of our success. We also attend an event in Atlanta, and as of this date, that's currently on in October. It's the Southeast Exhibition, and we'll be going to that. We continue to work with our local developers and people as they look to restructure, move things around. An example, we had our Kmart unfortunately went out of business a year and a half ago now. And we worked with the owners of the building, the owners of the land, and with a group to work on getting the Hobby Lobby store and come back in. And if you've driven by there, you will see the activity on that. These are just some of these particular, in sort of the last 5 years, main brands that we work with Retail Strategies, local developers, our contacts, to bring these businesses and some more into our area. Big one up there was Publix. That was a biggie, and we worked a long time and a lot of activity to bring that in. And Mr. David Crabtree, who owns Brookside Properties, they're now one of the partners in the mall. They were instrumental in bringing them in. And as I said, Hobby Lobby is underway. Hibbett Sporting Goods is moving as part of the mall restructuring. They're moving sort of almost next door and expanding, doubling their space. And one that we were cautious and worried about, but we did some, not anything we did, it's just that the people of this area have shopped enough to make JCPenney decide, as they go through their restructuring, they're going to keep somewhere between 300 and 400 stores in their chain, and ours is going to be one of them. So there's some work done in that. In the technology sector, we've worked to hand in hand with TUA, the TVA, and others to really promote our fiber to the premises. That's a big deal. We're one of 7 cities in the state that has fiber to the premises throughout our area. And that is involved in a lot of decision-making. We also attended, and this is sort of the first year we had an opportunity to arise, and back in December, and we attended in Chattanooga a place called Project Voice. And I'm going to move ahead to that. That is a trade show, and it's an international trade show. We actually were able to have an exhibit booth and try to attract people who service the voice assistance industry. You say, what is that? You've heard, hey Google, or Amazon, or Alexa, or Siri. That's all voice actuated commands, and there's a whole industry of that. It is the fastest growing technological advance that has ever been. Let me repeat that, ever been. They've gone from practically nothing to, in less than 2 years, 48% of American households have some form of voice assistance device in their home. And so hopefully right now, if the creeks don't rise, we've got some money in the budget. We're going to go back and work that. We had a team of about 6 people. And the people that are in this are companies, and the designers are just like programmers. And so we're trying to look at how we can capture interest in those people, given all of our technological advances here, how we can interest more of them in working with us. There's some possibilities of working with Motlow in some of the work they're doing with visual, the VR they call it, the things where you put I don't know what you call them, a headset on, and it you think you're somewhere else. But using the voice actuator, we believe that that's going to be a real thing for us. One of the things that we were excited to find out on the last line of this, and Mr. Bradley Metrock, who is the CEO of Score Publishing, his firm actually put this international show on. If you don't think international, the booth right across the aisle from us were people from Russia. And there are all kind of international companies there. It's a very growing, fast-growing industry, and we want to see if we kind of get in on the ground floor, and we think we are. And so we later invited Mr. Metrock down, and we had a nice luncheon, and about 7 or 8 of us that had worked with him in Chattanooga, and he's kind of taken us under his wing, if you will, and introducing us to some of the right people. So again, it's relationships. One of the other things that we've worked at is with our technological integrated with entrepreneurial effort that we're undergoing here as a community. We applied for back in November and were accepted as one of 10 communities across the TVA service region to be accepted as a program called the Community Innovation Academy. And TVA has brought in a special consultant. We've been to a 2-day meeting in Chattanooga. We had another one last week. Again, because of COVID, it was virtually done. We will be going to Huntsville in August. But in that, we're coming up with ways that we can build the entrepreneurial capacity and build our ecosystem, entrepreneurial ecosystem here. And we have recently had some recognition by a think tank out of Arkansas, in which in their whole district, Tullahoma, Manchester Micropolitan Statistical Area, now that's 3 counties, not just Coffee County, but Franklin County and Moore County. That area, and that's a census designated designation, that's rated us as having the most young entrepreneurial firms, and it doesn't mean young in age, meant young in how long they've been in business. And we had also, they rated us very high because of the number of highly educated people in those firms. And that spinoff is bringing in even more firms. And I'd be glad to come back and talk to you some about that at another point. But just suffice it to say, we've been involved in that, and our local team that went to the Chattanooga meeting and will be going to others, and then coming back and working with a steering committee to work on these plans, is consist of myself, the city administrator, and our downtown coordinator, Shelley Smith. So we're working along, and a lot of phone calls and webinars and Zoom meetings. It's all very interesting. Sometimes I think I'm getting Zoom overload, but we're going that. And speaking of that, and Shelley Smith, one of the groups that we have really developed a good collaboration, and they're doing in so many ways, working with Motlow State Community College, and they've got their new robotics center. They've got their new program, Motlow Train, in which they are actually training businesses that will learn how to do what they do better, and things such as selling over the internet and those kind of things. And then they're out online, their Motlow Train Education to Go programs. They got, we saw last week, it's like 10 or 12 new programs that are free. And if you're in business or just somebody that wants to improve your skills, they will actually do that for you and at no cost to you. So it's a way that they're helping to improve the population to develop our skills. So it's pretty good. Moving along, we continue to work with our healthcare and medical sector. That's been real critical over the last 3 months, especially monitoring that. And we appreciate the good work that Sonova Harton is continuing to provide for our community and all the positions that are there. Our aviation and aerospace, we continue to support the Arnold Community Council. We hope our annual fly-in to Washington, D.C. with about 30 people from the community was canceled this year because of COVID-19, but there were some, Zoom meetings with some of the Congress, but then they decided they were leaving, so even that didn't work. But we're working to beef up that, and we're working to continue to support, and you're going to hear a lot more about that in just a minute, the Tullahoma Airport Authority and the work, and we're both working on the continuing to work to market our new Tullahoma Business Airport. And that's a continuing thing. We have been going through the last year. We were certified 4 years ago. We're going through a recertification process right now, and I'll be so glad when that's completed. But making sure that all our data and everything, and any soil samples and all kinds of crazy things that we work with, we're continue to work on it. We did cancel the trip this year, but we have that scheduled pending budget constraints next year. We did support the AOPA fly-in back in September, and we had quite a bit of traffic at that, as you might imagine, and had 7,500, 8,000 participants. John will have those exact numbers. Let's see, 9,425 and 527 aircraft who flew in for that 2.5-day event. So that's kind of things that you don't get. The that they advertised that event in 10 of their monthly magazines, and that went to almost 400,000 members, talking about the Tullahoma Airport and what a great source it is. So we also worked to seek some funding, 2 new hangars, and we were working pretty good, and COVID-19 sort of slowed that project. They backed off on that for a little bit. So we've had a lot of, unfortunately, distractions, for lack of a better term, due to the COVID-19. And we are working on the recertification process. We're also assisting, this is a couple of programs the mayor started 2 years ago, and we were asked to assist and are assisting a new program in tourism, and also downtown initiatives, and we continue to work, as I said, on the entrepreneurial activities. One of the things that, just one of the little things that we worked on, I say little, one of our board members, Beverly Lee, called our attention to and went to work on. We helped host the first year of the local tryouts for the Tennessee's songwriters competition. This was the second year they had it for the state, and it was first year for Tennessee. We actually had 15 local participants that had written songs that went up, and there was one person that was selected, and they went up and participated in the big thing. As you know, this is one thing we put a lot of work into, the new Parkview living community, 102 independent living apartments, and those are moving. If you hadn't been by there, don't miss a day, because there's going to be something new come when you go by it. But that's going to be a great addition to our community and to our housing stock. We also worked some of the things, and I think Ms. Moody mentioned last week, the Enable Comp that's eventually going to bring 200 jobs over the next 5 years. We helped with the expansion of TE connectivity. We also worked with the Industrial Board of Coffee County. They had a program that they worked through TBA called the TBA Competitive Communities Programs. Several of us went through that whole process and supported them last May and June and July, so that was a good thing. I hesitated putting this up. This is what we were looking at before COVID-19 fully hit. Our unemployment rate had moved down. That was the last figures, 4%. That's now, the latest ones were 21%, and we expect that that's going to come down like the state, and we expect that to move back down pretty quickly. Business license issued were a little slower last year. Our sales tax revenues, however, have continued to go up, and that's something in this day and age. And even we saw increases, even the most recent figures, that our sales and revenue from business and retail continue to do well there. And part of that is our emphasis that we've had on being a regional center for people to come and shop, and we continue to really work on that. We will continue to work on it. As far as our budget request, we worked with Ms. Moody and Ms. Wilson, and we've had some cuts, and we don't like to talk about that, but we think we still got a pretty good program for the coming year. And so we've tried to put in and keep in those things that are most important at this time until we see exactly what we're going to be dealing with for the rest of this year and into next year. And Ms. Moody has told me I will have a great revenue increase next mid-year next year, and that we may get some of our programs back. We certainly hope so. And what are our next steps? We're continuing to work. Believe it or not, we were working, had a first draft of a new 3-year strategic plan. Our old one is about out, and we put that on hold. We'll continue to work with it, but we've got to see where we're going to do to see if we can add any new programs, shift things around, and strengthen the programs that we have. We pledge to you that we're going to do that and use your revenues efficiently and effectively, and ones that you'll hopefully continue to be proud of. We're going to continue to work on such things as the Arnold Community Council, our marketing plan, and our visits and marketing. We are hopefully going to be able to go to several of our most important trade shows and working on that. But we've had a busy year, and we are. I'm fully confident we're going to have another busy year in the future, and we're going to continue to work with the Industrial Board of Coffee County in their activities and supporting any manufacturing. We do also put this in there because we all know that this is here. We want to identify and implement policies and procedures to aid in the economic recovery of this region. My personal viewpoint is that just everything that I've looked at is that our local economic impact has been less than a lot of other communities around the state and nation. But it's no time to rest. We're going to continue to move forward and get that built back up as quick as possible. And so that's all I have.
Mr. Robinson, thank you very much. Anyone have any questions or comments?
A couple.
Sure.
Maybe I missed it. What is the amount we pay the Retail Strategies contract?
$30,000 a year.
In the Atlas, is that a yearly contract or is that just
Yes.
What is that one?
What?
What do we pay for that one a year?
$30,000.
The same?
No,
No.
I'm sorry.
What was your
Atlas.
second question?
I'm sorry, Atlas.
Oh, Atlas?
Yeah.
No,
Is that just software or?
That's part of the work we get from TBA and MGIDA. We do pay an extra $1,000 a year that allows us to use their possible sites, website. In other words, we've got some business and commercial businesses. The big website is generally buildings that have over than 10,000 square feet, mostly industrial. The $1,000 deals with smaller commercial buildings. And that was an add-on they offered, and we took advantage of it.
Great. Thank you.
Well, I noticed with these two new companies, the Swiss company you mentioned, and then there was another one, Tom, and it was some sort of a comp. You said
Enable.
Thank you. Yeah, I noticed that just with those, we're talking about a 1% or 1.5% increase in the number of employed people in Tullahoma, and I've had people from the surrounding area say, well, you know, I'm not going to say which cities, but they say, well, why did y'all get that and we didn't? I say the secret sauce. That's the industrial board, the Tullahoma Economic Board, Development Board. Y'all just do so much, and it's so impressive to see what y'all are doing. Thank you very much, Tom, for what you do.
Very nice, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. So I want to acknowledge the work of Dave Bond. Lynn Seaburn is here as well with the board.
I'm sorry, I should have done that without having to be prompted. But my industrial board, TAEDC board chair, Dr. Lynn Seaburn, and vice chair, Mr. David Bond, are here. You've got 7 people total on the board, and they do grand work. They support me, they support you, and we couldn't do it if we weren't all working together. But I've been in this business close to 40 years, and I've been here close to 8, and this is the best board I've ever had. They're they're strong, they know what they're doing, and they're supportive. So it's a real pleasure to work with them.
Mr. Bond, did you seek recognition?
If I could, I'd like to make 2 comments.
Sure.
First of all, I'd like to say, as a taxpayer in Tullahoma, I think that we are getting our money's worth from what we're investing in economic development. Second thing, I'd like to compliment you as a board on your astute decision-making and your hiring of Jennifer. She has come in and really engaged, and she is contributing significantly to the economic development. She works very closely with Tom and with our board, and we're seeing the results of that. So thank you for that. Look forward.
Absolutely. You're here. Thank you. Okay, third on the agenda tonight is the Tullahoma Airport Authority. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4 members. Who wants to be? Jennifer, John, Paul, Don? Who wants to be recognized? I guess John Glass does. Welcome, Mr. Glass.
Thank you. Yes, we do have Jennifer Benetti-Lugini here, who is our secretary, Paul Sirks, who's our chairman, and Dr. Daniel, who's our treasurer. Our staff members, we have 3 full-time staff members. Myself, Jimmy Chapman, who have over 57 years of experience at the airport. Cindy Duke, who is a new full-time employee. She was a United Airlines flight attendant. Sarah Kofelt, James Wagner are both full-time college students, going to be engineers. Sarah Smithson is going to ETSU to study psychology. 2 of our newer ones, Tim Beauvais, he's retired Air Force avionics specialist. Joe White is also a full-time Tennessee Tech student. Randy Roepke, who mows our 800-acre airfield part-time, is a retired elementary school teacher. And then I have our 2 other engineers who are Murray King and Leo Benetti-Lungini, who just help out for special events, probably work about 40 to 50 hours per year. Prior to 2011, our fuel sales were handled by a private company, averaged about 103,000 gallons per year. Since 2012, we have averaged about 170,000 gallons per year. I think we have a little bit better service and better fuel prices. 2019 was a record fuel sales for the airport. We hit 255,545 gallons. And when I do fuel sales, I go by calendar year. 2020 has been a challenge so far. January, February, March were hit with terrible weather. April was, I think, the first month when we saw the effects of the virus. We had our worst month ever in April for fuel sales. May was a little bit of a different story. We had our second best May ever. So it's right now I'm thinking 150,000 gallons this year, but I don't know what the next 6 months are going to look
Mr.
like.
Glass, share with the group the importance of fuel sales to the authority.
And this is what I say, I think, every year, but the more fuel we sell at the airport, it's the less appropriation we need from the city. And that's one of our top goals. Our current fuel prices as of 5 days ago, we're very competitive with our neighbors. You can see we're at $3.10 and $3.35 a gallon on avgas. We're at $2.99 a gallon on jet fuel. If you look at Nashville, they're at $6.48 and $5.04. If you do the average of fuel prices within a 50-mile radius of Tullahoma, they come in at $4.10, so we're about $1 less on that, and then $3.54 on jet fuel.
John, do they have an app? You know how you can have an app on your phone that'll tell you where the cheap gas is? Is there an AvGas app too?
Sure is, yes.
Okay.
Special events for 2019, Bonnaroo, we had about 12 jet aircraft, sold about 8,150 gallons of fuel in the 4 days. We had 55 passengers, including Post Malone and Cardi B. NFL players, Sam Bradford, Chris Long, they've been a regular here the last 4 or 5 years at the airport. In July, Civil Air Patrol had their glider training academy. About 25 cadets received intensive glider training. We had the AOPA flying in September. That brought in about 600 aircraft, 9,400 visitors to our city, and we sold about 12,900 gallons of fuel. And then the October beach party, their numbers are already very consistent, about 155 aircraft, 8,000 gallons of fuel sold, and 450 visitors to the airport and the city. Projects we completed over the past year, we did some drainage improvements on a taxiway and also the south ramp area. The picture you see there is Northwest Hangar 2, which was completed. They presently have 2 Falcon jets based in there, and then some routine pavement maintenance projects. Current airport projects, we're going to be submitting 2 in about 7 days, be an airport layout plan. That's kind of the blueprint of the airport. Our first one was completed in 2008, and they recommend updating it about every 10 years. We have a taxiway with a lot of hangars on it, the North Taxiway. And one point I wanted to make is usually we submit a 5% local share with these projects. We're submitting these with a 0% local share under the CARES Act. Future airport projects needed. The runway 624 seal coat crack repair. That's another project that's badly needed that the Aeronautics Division is going to fund that, so no local share from us. New airfield electrical vault. Presently we have a VRR building that came over from Arnold Air Force Base. It's, I think, mid-1960s vintage, so we'd like to replace that. And then we can always do concrete repair at the airport. I think, as y'all know, it was built in 1942, and that's kind of going to be a never-ending job. The runway 1836 concrete repair is probably my biggest issue. 1836 is a secondary runway considered by the Aeronautics Division. So right now we have no funding, like a 95% local share lined up for that work. But hopefully we can get that done sometime soon. When I talk about the 95% share that the State Aeronautics Division pays on it, it comes from the Tennessee Equity Fund. So every gallon of gas sold to airplanes in the state of Tennessee, there's a 4.5% sales tax on that. Currently, the commercial service and the GA airport split 94% of that. The fund reached about $50 million in 2011, 2012. After that, Federal Express got a tax write-off on what they contribute to the fund. Last year's receipts totaled about $26 million. As we talked about, we had the AOPA regional fly-in September. Outside of their home airport in Frederick, Maryland, we were the first repeat airport they came to. We also did one in 2015. And you can see from last year they did Frederick, Maryland, Livermore, California, and Tullahoma, Tennessee. We think the economic impact of them coming here was about $728,000 for the city. Our goals, safety is always our top priority. We want to reduce the city's funding to the airport. Like I said, we do that by selling more fuel, increase the fuel sales revenue, control operating expenses. We get a lot of community service workers at the airport. We have them do odd jobs for us and operate with our present staff levels. And please let me know if you have any questions.
Any comments, questions, Mr. Glass? Guys, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Yep. Appreciate all the work the authority members do. Very nice.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I would like to say that it's my pleasure, absolute pleasure, to work with these two entities, these two boards. It's not a chore when you can work with people that are contributing to economic development. These people are. So I appreciate that
Yeah.
opportunity to work.
Very well said.
Good job, guys.
Yep, thank you. Okay. Thanks, everyone, for being here tonight. We appreciate all the presentations. Ready for board reports? Mr. Mathis.
No report, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Barry.
Couple real quick things. I read in the paper, I think it was recent, congratulations to Phil Henderson,
Yeah.
Tullahoma's finest, nice picture in there.
Yeah.
Also want to, serving on the Consolidated Communications, which is Comm Center 911, I want to thank Lowe's. They needed a grill, and we were trying to save the taxpayers $250. So Lowe's donated a grill, came out there and delivered it, because they work kind of 24/7. Sometimes they'll go out and grill a bunch there.
So when are we going to test it out?
They said give them a call and they'll make us some burgers. So I say we go up there. And it's a neat, if you've never, and I'm sure you all have, it's actually really incredible
Yes.
what they do there. And just kind of fully understanding everything they do. My screen's everyone on here. One thing that driving through town, and I've noticed it a while ago, and it's still kind of there, there's a giant tree in the middle of the cemetery.
I missed what you said.
It's Oakwood on the corner, right? There's a giant tree that's been down there for a little while.
It's in works. We've got some purchase orders.
Awesome. I noticed it. And then just one kind of real quick thing. We have there's an event scheduled for Saturday, peaceful event, and I've gotten a lot of calls and messages and read a bunch of stuff on Facebook. And something I want to say is that and I'm sure as we all do, fully support the peaceful protests and gatherings here, in that it's something that's granted by our Constitution. It's a pretty powerful right. And then I have full faith in our community and the organizers and the men and women under the leadership of Chief Williams. This isn't not his first rodeo, to make this an event that can serve as an example, hopefully to other communities, on how we can peacefully gather together as neighbors and stand together on issues that are important to us and hopefully make impactful change. And I'm going to cut it there because I believe she's got more to say on that. Thank you, Mayor.
Very well said. Thank you. Yep. Ms. Blackwell.
Yes, let me open up my thing. I do the same thing. It never recognizes my face anymore when I'm wearing a mask. So, to caddy off of what Alderman Berry was just saying, there is an event clearly happening here, and it's been awesome because I have been chatting with different members in our community the past week. I think last week when I talked about specifically having a coffee and conversations where we would have people come and talk to me about different relationships that they've had, different racism that they've experienced or discrimination of any kind, to please come and talk about this with me. Somehow, for some reason, opened up people to give me a call and to talk to me, which is great. This is what we want. So from these conversations that I've had, I've talked with the different community leaders out there and some other people, and I've decided I'm working with you and Jennifer today. I'm really excited that we're going to start a diversity council here in our town. Speaking with some of them, I think the goal for us is to be a conduit for our minority communities to have advocacy within our city government and to begin a cultural shift in our community. So I'll be reaching out to people to see who would like to get involved, anybody who would like to become involved in this organization. I'd love to see members of all different communities within our community to come so that they can have a voice at this table. The very first meeting, just so that everybody has this on their calendar, and I'm going to put it out there as well, is July 7th, 6 p.m. at Mount Zion Baptist Church. Thank you to Pastor Torbert for allowing me to come there to his church and have this happen. And with that, Alderman Berry was talking about the march this weekend. I'm really excited. I've been giving a lot of you guys a call today, begging you to help me. We do have a water stop that we will be at, and I think 4 of us are already committed to handing out water. I think it's important for us to be there because it allows for a place where we can hear voices from people who might have different experiences than us. I think that's the great part about events like this, is that it allows us to have a way to interact more with our community and hear from people. So, yes, that's all I've got. I'm really excited about this Diversity Council. Mm-hmm. Can you tell? So,
very good. Thank you. Very well said as well.
Thanks.
Dr. Blanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I haven't had any outside meetings in the last week. But just to tag on to what Rupa said, get rid of this mask so people can understand me. We've had it's been a weird 2020. It's like the year from Hades in some ways. We're a resilient community. We're a strong nation. Sometimes I think through adversity we come together. Before some of the things that have happened in the last 2 or 3 months, 9/11 was the last time I remember us all getting really tight with each other, and we would weigh differences to stand as one. I would never wish a pandemic on somebody or a death of somebody of color to shine light on some things that could be worked on in our nation. Before I came today, I was at my in-laws, and my son was with me. I've raised an independent thinker, and that can be good and bad. And I took the phone call, and he said, well, what's going on? And I told him, and he said, you need to speak to that. And I thought, that's Rupa's deal, but I wholly support that. When we raise our children, we raise them hopefully to not see color. That was the way I was raised. And, as you get older, though, you have other influences. But I think racism is a taught trait. I think it's horrible. And, there's some people on this board that have grown children, have grandchildren, have children in the household, and hopefully we raise our kids to be colorblind. And that's how I hope all kids are raised, and that they will keep that for the rest of their lives. And that's all I have to say, Mayor.
Wow, very good. Thank you, all three, for the comments tonight. Very, very powerful. Ms. Dillon.
Yes. Wow. I don't know what else to say. I'm going to switch gears. I will say this. I'm very glad to be able to sit in this group of people and continue to go in a positive direction in this community. So thank you guys all for what you're doing. I've also got a lot of thanks. I've spent a lot of time in the rain garden. I've got to give a special shout out to Butch Taylor and Jim Patterson, who's our environmental engineer. They've both done so much. And then we've got Bob Bates on the Go Green group, who has been instrumental in getting this going. I've talked to Miss Debbie at the Lawns Unlimited, and they are really, really stepping forward and helping out with I was so glad that we were able to go local with getting our plants. And I talked to Chief Shastine, who's also agreed to help out in some capacity. So it's just, we definitely would have liked to, right? Okay, I'm just making sure. we would have definitely liked to.
No pressure now, but.
Sorry. We would have loved to have had the plants already established and in the ground. And of course, we couldn't do it in April. So we're going to get out there this week. So anybody who's wanting to get out there and get dirty, Wednesday morning is when we're starting. We're just going to keep going till they're all in. So that's what we're doing right now.
What time Wednesday morning are you starting?
I'm going to be there at 7:30.
What time can I
You come on, girl, come on. Let's get him in the ground, that's fine. So, yep.
Just bring Jack, he'll help.
Gosh, he'll eat all the dirt.
Hiker.
Is that it?
That's
Okay,
it. Yeah,
thank you, Ms.
if
Dunn.
anybody who wants to help, we are at East Lincoln Elementary School. We'll be starting at about 8 in the morning until lunchtime. Bring a shovel, water, and sunscreen.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Mills, please, sir.
Mr. Mayor, one of the benefits of going last is I just simply get to say amen to all the things that I've heard about this tonight. It's inspiring, really, to serve on a board that has this group that's so energized. So it's a pleasure to work with this group. Of all the things going on this week is certainly overshadowed this week with the death of a very dear friend, this Abby Slater in town. Every one of you, Abby, will miss her vibrant personality. So it's
Yep, thank you. Okay, we're ready for the city attorney, and he's not here. Any report on his behalf? No?
No.
Okay. All right, city administrator, Mrs. Moody.
I will keep it short. I appreciated all of the excellent presentations tonight from our partners out there. I will let you know just an update. Have not had a meeting yet with Joe Keller with London's to talk about the lease, but we are working towards that. He has a copy of the lease, and I'm sure we'll be reaching out to make time to talk about that. And then I think that's it. I appreciate everyone's comments. We are working cooperatively with community members that want to hold, I believe they're calling it a march on Saturday. We'll be meeting with them on Wednesday again to talk about details of that, and we'll share it out to the public and the business community. And I know that especially the business community, has shared with us concerns, but I echo your words that I think all of the people who are involved in organizing it and the way that they're organizing it and letting the faith community take the lead, I really believe that we have an opportunity to listen and be empathetic and really just work together as a community. As you said, this is what our democracy is. This is people exercising their First Amendment rights. And I think when we do it well, we don't just do it for letting Tullahoma stand up and be a symbol, but really we're a symbol for the world about what the right forms of government, best forms of government are. And so it's sort of an exciting time to be a leader, I think. We have an opportunity to change, be part of a cultural shift. We're seeing it or being forced into it in a lot of ways. COVID-19, I think, started the ball rolling in terms of technology and embracing change, and now we'll kind of roll with this next thing and embrace that change and be better for it. So, very well said. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have 3 items on the consent agenda, and before I read these, Mrs. Dunn, I believe, has a special request. Is that right?
Yes.
So, listen,
Change the vote for last week. If I could, please.
Okay, I know what you're talking about, but for the record, if you would share. Mrs. Moody, can you help clarify what?
Sure, I would be happy to help.
It was
At our
regarding
meeting last
TUA.
Monday, there was an item on the agenda for us to approve the annual appropriation from Tullahoma Utilities Authority.
Yes.
And as you might remember, there were some financial consequences to their moving the electric utility. Dr. Blanks can probably help with that. But they requested some relief for 2 years. This year's budget would be the first year that they restore the relationship to paying the 100% of the calculated payment in lieu of tax. And Alderman Dunn, I think, had some question about whether she was approving the full amount or a less than the full amount, and So she would like to change her vote and show it in the affirmative
Okay.
now that she has better understanding of everything.
My recollection, Ms. Golden.
She explained that so much better.
Good job. With no warning whatsoever. So the motion, as I recall, passed 6-1 with Mrs. Dunn voting negative. She wishes to change her vote, which is permissible, as long as it does not change the outcome of the vote, which this would not be. This would change it from 6-1 to 7-0. Okay? We very seldom do this. So does not. I just need to get. Does anyone object to Mrs. Dunn's request?
No.
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 All right. Seeing no objection, so so the vote has been changed to reflect a 7-0 vote on the matter from last week. Now we're ready for the agenda. We've changed the minutes now to reflect that 7-0 vote. Is that all you need, Ms. Golden? Are you good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we've got 20-49 minutes of the June 1st, 2020 special called meeting as amended a moment ago. Item number 2050, accept the donation of a gazebo from Mr. Joseph Keller, valued at $3,500, and in-kind moving services provided by Gullett's Towing and Recovery for the Tullahoma Fire Department. 20-51, approve the emergency repair of the aerial apparatus in the amount of $19,148.13 for Tullahoma Fire Department. All right, you have a
Motion to approve.
have a motion by Ms. Blackwell, seconded by Dr. Blanks. All those in favor of the consent agenda is amended, vote green. Opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. We have one item of old business. Ordinance number 1540, an ordinance of the City of Tullahoma, Tennessee, adopting the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020, and June 30th, 2021, for the passage of second of 3 readings. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 1540 on the second?
Move to approve.
Proper motion by Mr. Noah, seconded by Dr. Blanks. Any discussion?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
If there's some line item in that budget that we question or want to amend, do we do that?
At the third reading.
Okay.
That's the only one that counts, is the third
Yeah.
reading.
Okay.
We do appreciate if you shared this with us in advance.
Yeah.
You want me to share it with you now?
Yes.
Somebody at this table here, or even out there, may know how long it's been since we've had an increase in salary for the mayor of the city of Tullahoma. Anybody know that?
I do.
Mr. Mayor, would you like to share that with us?
It was in 1993. So, I don't know how many, that's
The position of mayor of Tullahoma, even though it's not the city administrator position, is a important position, and I think it should be reflected in the amount that they're paid every month. You're the ambassador and like Pat said, Scott said earlier, his daughter, that's the only mayor she's ever known. So I think we need to look at that sometime.
So a couple of years ago, that question came up, and the previous city administrator
Yes.
asked someone to do some research. Ms. Weiss might have done that. I'm not sure who did that, but anyway, somebody did that, and somebody called around and asked what the mayors were, and it was a little on the low side, but it wasn't extraordinarily low compared to other cities, if that's important.
But since 1993 then,
Correct. We've had no increase with the mayor's salary. I just think we need to think about that.
Yeah, so make it clear, it won't affect me whatsoever.
yeah, I know.
I'm out of here in 2 months. You cannot change, if it was going to be done, it probably would need to be done in the third reading, because you cannot change the salary of an elected person during their term of office. So whoever the next mayor is, it would be 3 more years before, so if it's not done on the. Yeah, that's
If we
right.
go to 4.
Yeah, right. Because you can't adjust up or down the salary during the term of office.
So we've gone 27 years, it'll be 30 if we don't do anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Just giving y'all the heads up.
So why didn't you bring this up 3 years ago?
I don't know. You could have gotten a haircut. I'll pay for your haircut, and your mom will be proud. Right? Yeah.
Listen, when I pay $5 to get a haircut, I'm going to get my money's worth.
Okay, Rapunzel.
All right, any other discussion? Please no.
Okay.
All right.
Please no. One fairly quick one. The Splash Island, I know we kind of talked about this. We're not super sure yet. Still? That's a question. Something I don't see on the indoor pools are the lifeguards. Is that included in the Splash Island for the indoor pools? Where is that line item for those?
It would be included with the community centers.
So that's in the community centers. Okay. And I know that we had some vacant positions we're not filling it, but I also know there was a 4th position lost in Parks and Rec. And that's a lot of work for these 3 guys there. And so if we could find something there, that would be a great, unless you don't need it.
We need it.
So
It's not in the budget.
So what happened is that in last year's budget, we converted a part-time maintenance worker into a full-time. And we hired a person to fill that job. In less than a year, that person left us for higher pay in another city to do similar work. And that sat vacant during this time while we've had a hiring freeze. And so when it came time to do the budget, the very first thing that I looked at is where the vacancies are. And because that's where we have made do already without those positions, that's where we can also afford to cut. So it's very difficult to make this tight of a budget work without looking at salary and benefits and where we can make cuts in personnel, because that's 70% of our expenses. So anything of any significance for me to cut, I have to look at that. So again, I looked at vacant positions first. That was one that we had most recently added, so it was easier to take away than maybe some other position that we've had longer.
They've got a lot of stuff to do.
I don't disagree at all. It's one area, that's why.
It seems like they've been hit really hard.
They have been impacted the most. That's why I wanted to make that very clear. And it's something that Kurt Glick, the director, and I have talked about quite a bit, that I think in their areas, services will have to be impacted. The maintenance of some of our facilities, you may see a difference. And so, I'm, not sugarcoating that at all. It's a reality. We see it. This is a very tight budget. The only thing that I would say is I'm hopeful that we are being very cautious in our spending for about the next four months or so until we get some actual revenue experience behind us, and then can feel more comfortable adjusting the budget or hiring new people back. But yeah, I think it's kind of the reality right now is we're kind of asking for patience and grace, especially in the Parks and Recreation Department.
Is that one of the places where if we do start to exceed a revenue that we're expected, the 3% that we're already budgeting for lower, if we do start to exceed and meet goals that we weren't expecting, do you have a plan for where were the first buckets you would fill?
Yes, so I've put together, throughout this whole thing, I've kept spreadsheets of where we've made cuts. So you have to remember, we made cuts in this current year budget before we even made the cuts for next year. So yes, I've been keeping track of that and prioritizing where I think we need to add back.
Cool.
Yes.
We're ready to vote? Okay, we're voting on the second reading of 3, ordinance number 1540. All those in favor vote green, opposed vote red. Motion passes 7-0. We have no other old business. We have one item of new business, resolution number 1828. Consider approval of a resolution to grant an extension of vesting for Settlers Trace subdivision, of which upon approval would extend the developer's vested property rights by 3 years. You see an excellent explanation of that starting on page 52 of your agenda. Through no fault of the developer builder, he has had some challenges along the way and has requested an additional 3 years.
Motion
So,
approved.
Proper motion by Mr. Noah, second by Dr. Blanks. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of resolution 1828, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Resolution number 1829, consider approval of resolution approving an urban development action grant UDAG loan in the amount of $150,000 for South Jackson Civic Center. Once again, you see that explanation on page 56 of your agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion by Dr. Blank, second by Ms. Blackwell. Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution 1829, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. We have no other new business, so we are adjourned, and we'll go into the beer board portion of the agenda. We have item 20-BB 16, minutes of June 1st, 2020 beer board meeting. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
A motion by Ms. Blackwell, seconded by Mr. Noes. All those in favor of the consent agenda as presented, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. We have one item of new business, beer application on and off premise permit for MSAG LLC doing business at 122 West at 122 West Lincoln Street. The co-owner and manager, Ms. Kavala Saval, will be in charge of beer sales. Consider approval subject to final fire inspection. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Second.
A motion by Dr. Blank, second by Ms. Blackwell. Were you seeking recognition?
Sure. Who was the motion made by?
Blanks.
And second?
Blackwell.
Blackwell. Earlier today, Chief Justin said that they already passed the final fire, so.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Just
good.
as a piece of information.
And so, as
everything
you
is
know,
correct.
I don't know if I think the whole board knows, this is not a new applicant,
Right.
they have an on-premise permit, and this is adding off-premise, so that it will allow the sale of growlers. Something that I think has been allowed during COVID-19. And they'll be allowed to continue now with their new permit.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion as presented, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. No other beer board business, so we are adjourned. We do have one study session item. Ms. Moody and I were in a conversation the other day about this item in the hotel motel tax distribution and annual appropriation, and to be honest with you, we couldn't come to an agreement, okay? And so I said, let's just open it up for discussion. Let's so I'll give you, from my perspective, just a little background as to what brings this up. For many, many years, we would entertain and often add to the budget each year requests by various eligible nonprofit entities, okay? During the recession of 07, 08, 09, a lot of those were dropped off, okay? Just for budget considerations, no more complicated than that. Nothing against any of the entities that have received modest amounts of money. So, you know, there's a couple of ways, you know, we can do this. We can leave it just as it's approved, just as we've got right here. Or, you know, Ms. Moody and I talked the other day about, you know, we can put every one of those at zero, and we can do like a zero-based budgeting thing and just start from scratch every year, all of them. And say, you know, somebody makes a motion, let's give so much to this one, so much to this one, so much to this one. That could get sort of unwieldy, I mean, but, you know, it gets sort of complicated. Another approach is we take all of these organizations, every alderman, the mayor, and you put an amount next to them that totals the total appropriations. We take those totals, divide by 7, and that's what each one gets. because it will total the amount. I mean, there's all kind of ways to do this. The appropriations total about $97,000. So, we could just say, we're gonna take 1/4 of 1% of the total budget, and that's that's our base number. So, Ms. Wilson or Ms. Moody, at what point do we have to decide what each of these appropriations are going to be? Is it possible just to designate a certain total amount and then deal with this over the next couple of meetings? Or do we need to know exactly what each line item is going to be in the third reading?
I think it's possible to, what we had anticipated was having the amounts before third reading.
Sure.
But I think, to your point, if you were to designate a total amount that you're going to stay within, then clearly that's all we would need to do.
Or it could be that if 4 of you want to leave it just as it is right now, then that makes it really pretty easy.
Can I ask what the impetus was for this?
Yeah. We couldn't agree.
The impetus was that some agencies, as I tried to explain in the memo that you have, it's on page 72. If you look at, I think it might be easier, if you look at page 75, this is a page out of our budget, and you have some agencies that are listed under tourism and cultural organizations. Each of those things are funded directly by the hotel motel tax collection. And they're done in an ordinance. So the ordinance that establishes that we're gonna levy a tax at 5% on all hotels, that same ordinance specifies not more than 12% is gonna go to the chamber, not more than such and such percent, it's right over here on the other page. Not more than 3% to hands-on science, not more than 0.5% to historic preservation. So it's in the actual city code how we will distribute those funds, not specific amounts. So they fluctuate. If collections come in high, they get more. If collections come in low, they get less. What I thought would be a solution to that for this budget, to hold them not quite harmless, because we didn't do that, we had cuts across the board, but rather than the 20% reduction that we're anticipating in collections, we thought we could hold them realistically at an 8% reduction. So in the proposed budget that was in front of you, that's how those amounts were derived, is with an 8% across the board cut to those agencies. But to do that, I would have to also bring you an amendment to this ordinance to basically suspend it or to remove these percentages out of the ordinance. And I thought that could be a good thing. My argument, I guess, in that conversation was that why don't we fund all of these through resolution, which only takes one reading and can change every year, much easier than an ordinance can. And that's how we fund everything listed under community service organizations.
Well, and would that allow, as I used to do nonprofit work all the time, and for me, I think it would be scary as a nonprofit to be like, I don't know how much I'm going to get. Would this allow for them to be able to be like, we know how much is coming each year then? Wouldn't that be that?
If we,
Rather than have a
if we
percentage.
set a specific amount.
It doesn't rise up and down based on hotel motel tax. So all these entities that are under that category were deemed at some point to have a positive impact on tourism in our community. So we want to turn that hotel motel tax money back to those people and help them grow that part of our economy. But they don't get 100%, they get a percentage of it. And,
I kind of like that idea.
of having a flat amount,
I
or
mean,
having it up or down.
Maybe I'm wrong, but as if I were working at one of these nonprofits, I would be like, or organizations for some of these, it would be nice to know what I could count on from the city, as opposed to be like, it could be anywhere between this and this.
Yeah. keep in mind that the percentages typically are fairly small. You know, the sales tax might go up 2%, it might go up 3%, it might go up 4%. It's not gone down in a long time, so they know pretty close to it. Yeah. Now, the other group, in the other category, those, I think we need to pay special attention to those entities that, like South Jackson Civic Center. That is a city building.
Yes.
We've got to help take care of that building. The previous city administrator and Mrs. Moody have also heard me say, we don't want Mr. Gressel coming up here and saying, here's the keys, it's your building, you take it. We don't want that to happen. What?
It's yours.
Exactly. But he's doing a bang-up job down there, okay? So, but we just, that's a city building, we've got to take care of that building.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I know some of these are, I kind of like the idea of saying, set it 0, and then some of the, we had an evening where they could come and talk to us.
Right.
And many of them did not. And it's not coming and pleading to the board for money, but it is coming and telling the taxpayers, this is what we got last year, this is what we did with it last year, this is what we're gonna do with it this coming year. And I'm not a fan of just assuming we're gonna get it because we got it last year. And I think that one night a year for 30 minutes isn't much to ask. Or just call and say, which some people did, I'm not gonna be able to make it, here's a letter to read.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that that's, kind of respectful to the taxpayers. And
in years past, here on my gray hair, I'm telling on myself, they used to come, there'd be 20 to 25 groups that would come and do their spiel. I think we gave the impression to those nonprofits that the shorter the presentation, the more we liked it. Would you agree with that? The less your time, the more money you may get each week. So, I've sat where it's like 3 hours of presentations, or 2 maybe. And then in the last few years, that has greatly shortened. And we went through a period during the recession where we cut some. And then we've added back. But, my thing is, we've been doing it, how long have we been doing it this way, Mayor? 5 years?
Yeah, I'd say something like that. Yeah, we've not accepted any new ones for the past several years. Right. So, because once you start taking new ones, it's Katie bar the door at that point,
But also maybe some, and I'm not saying any in particular, but there may be some on here that don't need our help as much as another group does, and it misses some of that opportunity. And also, so the community service, I want to say CSOs, that is not tourism or cultural money, right? That's out of our budget money.
Sure.
And it's just, we did it in the recession. As the city hurts, sometimes maybe other people not need to hurt, but if there's things that if we can't take care of our parks, or we can't take care of this, then is it, it's probably not enough money to do that. But if, you hate to say that to any of them, but we have a responsibility first to the residents and businesses before everyone
Mayor,
else.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
A lot of work has gone into these numbers. I didn't gather exactly what exceptions you were taking with what's here. Explain that to me better, so I understand what I said.
Ms. Moody, you remember what my problem was?
I do.
You were a big help with this done a minute ago.
I do remember one of yours, and I think it would be the same argument that some community organizations would make. I mean, we have one in the audience if we want to ask, but I would think that they, as the mayor said, they have benefited. Now, to me, there are two different groups. There's the ones that are funded by resolution, the community service, and then there's the hotel motel tax. So the hotel motel tax organizations, because we've had a steady increase in that revenue for all these years, they would say, please don't change it. Because while it's not a reliable number, it's always more than they got in the years past.
But not this year.
Yeah, so
Okay,
that's,
so that takes
this
care of
isn't
itself.
a unique year in that, you know, it would, if we made the change this year, it would allow us to hold them harmless, but in some way, they would be giving up maybe the security of being in an ordinance and being up for conversation year after year. That's why I also suggested maybe a third option of having a memorandum of understanding with some organizations. For instance, the Chamber, South Jackson, whatever other ones you would want to identify. We might want to have a multi-year agreement with them that we do pick a specific amount that they can count on, that we're going to fund that for the next 3 years or next 5 years. And then the memorandum of understanding would also give you an opportunity to say what programs or services you're supporting with those funds. That's something different. We don't do that now.
But isn't that like a typical thing, though? That, I mean, whenever I've worked with other city organizations, that's how they did it with us, was through an MOU. Isn't that like a standard operating business for standard law?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't done a survey of everywhere. I know that it's a way that that I've seen in other cities I've worked for, that we did with Main Street, with Chambers, with certain organizations. We would call out and put it in an MOU and fund it every year like a contractual obligation, rather than treating it as like these other community service organizations.
See, my concern with just using a fixed amount, although I will defer to the will of the board, is that if you give them a fixed amount each year, then that, in some extent, takes away their incentive to try to help grow hotel motel tax. Maybe not. I don't know if it does or not, but if they get a percentage, then they're going to try to drive that number higher so they get a bigger number.
Yeah. But shouldn't we be having conversations over, you know, did you actually do something to get that money? Did you actually, like, you drive that?
What if it
versus just assuming we're going to give them.
Sure.
What if it was like a no less than instead of a not to exceed, right? Like,
Sort of hold them harmless is what she's
yeah.
saying. So I guess the point is, perhaps we will get this resolved tonight, perhaps not. But I did want to get some input as to whether, can we just put the $107,311 in a category for a short term and then try to get this resolved, if that's what the board wants to do. Or we can approve it just like it is right now.
I like the one.
I think Sue Wilson would like.
Ms. Wilson.
I'd like to say, I'm pretty sure the way it's worded in TCA, we need to identify the organizations in the budget so that the public knows what was approved, and then we actually do the resolutions afterwards to show what was funded.
Right.
And that's the state was second.
I glossed over that a little bit, but that's why the resolution. So how local governments can fund nonprofit agencies is specified in state law.
Sure,
and
that makes sense.
it is by resolution. And I looked last year, we passed the budget and then we passed the resolutions for each appropriation in July. So I think that, so that's how we typically do it.
Okay, so we do need to get this resolved, so I would encourage each of you to study this page number 76 over the next 2 weeks, and we need to arrive at a conclusion at the next meeting. Anything else?
Well, and also I think for the newer board members, I had shared that the approach that staff takes with these is we take the request, we provide those numbers to you, but we don't put any new agencies or increases or anything like that typically into the budget unless we hear from you specifically that that's what you want. So I wanted to be sure that you understand that, you know, if you think some agency should get more or something like that, that has to be specifically stated so we know to change the budget.
So in the past several years, when entities have come to me, qualified nonprofits have come to me and said that we would like to get in on some of this money, whether I had the authority or not, I just would say, I'm sorry, but we're not in a position to accept any new ones at this time. And because I can remember years ago, the request that we would fund would fill up half of this page, you know? And it just got to be bigger and bigger and bigger every year. And so we just, during the recession, it sort of cut a lot of them out. And we're not taking any cents that I can recall.
Did the horseplay thing get figured out? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, they paid their $300 or $400 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And
It was about $400 for a building permit.
That's right.
yeah. And then,
So I feel like they were the only other ones that came that we didn't have on this list, right?
well, there's three. There's CASA requested money, the Humane Society
That's
requested
right.
money, and horseplay requested money.
Yes.
So everybody think about what you want to do, and we'll try to get this resolved at the next meeting. No other business. We are adjourned. Thank you.